What's up, everybody? Mason McDonald and Dan Haberkost here with a quick video where we're really attempting to explain one of the best strategies in land. I think a lot of land flippers will call themselves investors and call themselves developers. And this is a strategy that is almost all of what we're talking about here. It's one of the easiest ways to add value to land. It gives you some of the best exit strategies available because you're actually adding value and you're creating inventory. And it really is one of the strategies that Dan and I are focusing most of our time on in this business, which is the idea of the exempt subdivision. And depending on where you're at, that could mean a lot of different things. But what we're really trying to figure out is how you can take a big piece of land, split it into smaller pieces of land without having a tremendous amount of government regulation involved.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good way of saying it. It's a great opportunity to do, a small value add and get the most amount of value out of that minimal effort. And I like this too because if you buy big enough, you can find deals on the market. So, do you want to explain a real life example as far as one state's regulation?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as you guys know, I live in Colorado, so we're doing these projects throughout the state, and there was laws back in the 1970s that created the subdivision exemption based on the size of the parcel that you were taking land down to. So, in Colorado, the exempt subdivision involves splitting pieces of land down to lots that are no smaller than 35 acres, and that makes it really attractive because you're able to go out and get a 70-acre lot and split it into two 35s, or a 350-acre lot and split it into 10 35s. But the process for getting it done in Colorado is really simple. It's you go out, you buy the land, or you get the land under contract, you get a licensed surveyor to come do a subdivision plat map, and I'll show you one right now for everyone watching. This is what it looks like. It's just a surveyor that goes out, they draw a bunch of lines, and it really shows what the new property is divided up into. You don't even have to necessarily have each lot having direct public road access. You can have them accessible by easements, where you don't even actually put the roads in, and then you go off and sell each one. After it's recorded with the county, you go to the assessor's office and you get each individual parcel will have a legal description that will then result in an APN, or assessor's parcel number, being created. And then eventually it'll show up on the mapping system. But it's one of the easiest processes for the land quote unquote developer that you can have in the state of Colorado. But Dan, you want to give an example for a different state or different county and how that's done?
Yeah, so this isn't unique. That specific law is unique to Colorado, but there are versions of this everywhere. And so, just as an example, in the Carolinas, Henderson County, North Carolina, has a minor subdivision process where 10 lots or under, they all have to have road access. If you're needing to grade in new streets and roads, that's different. But 10 lots or under qualifies for the minor subdivision process. And it's just as simple as what we talked through. I believe you have to talk to the subdivision administrator there and get them to actually sign off on it. But it's very simple. There's no hearings or long permitting processes like there are with the major subdivision. And I know similarly in Greenville County, South Carolina, same sort of deal. It's just 6 lots or less. We were looking at a deal one of the people in our school community wanted funded, and she, in that county, I forget which specific county it was somewhere in North Carolina, it was 5 lots or less, and she was good to split it up with just a plat, a couple boxes checked, and recording it. So some version of this exists almost everywhere.
And the beautiful thing is, it's July 1st, 2025 that we're making this video. It is so easy to go out and figure out where in your local markets it's possible to do this, because we just use AI and we ask ChatGPT or Gemini and make sure that you're double checking and verifying their sources and everything like that. But I'll ask of what counties or cities or township in the state of Pennsylvania have the most simple exempt or minor subdivision process that involves the least amount of approvals. And lists will come up that show what it is. And then you start asking clarifying questions of, okay, well, it says you can make 5 lots. What's the minimum lot size? And it'll spit out a table saying, hey, based on this zoning, this is what the minimum lot size is for that. And then it's okay, well, what's the minimum road frontage? And that's something that you have to really consider, where you're always thinking about the end buyer. Because while this process it seems really sexy because you can buy a piece of land on market and then potentially double or triple your money just by going through this process. But the problem is, if the product that you're creating is not actually desirable, then it's not worth it. So maybe in some areas, road frontage is absolutely crucial and necessary. In other areas, it doesn't really matter. They're looking for a place to kind of park their RVs or boondock a little bit, or depending on the regulations of the county. So it's making sure that the product matches up with the end buyer is crucial. But having ChatGPT or Gemini or one of the AI tools being able to tell you, like, hey, this is what the regulations are, and now we're at a point with AI where I can put in the listing of something and say, hey, does this property kind of match what I'm talking about? And then how would you draw the lines on it? How would you create it? And then you're able to go to a surveyor and kind of ask them those questions. But I mean, that's one of the real strategies we're using to pick markets based on the simplicity of the subdivision process.
Yeah, and I think what you said there is key, where you still call the surveyor, right? You get the information from ChatGPT or whatever you're using. You're 95% sure it's correct because it'll just pull straight from a county's website and just sort all that information and find the lines that pertain to this. But you still want to call the county, say, as I understand it, with as long as it falls under these parameters, I can take this piece of land and split it into 5 lots. Is that correct? And then ask the surveyor as well. But it gets you 95% of the way there and saves a lot of time. So go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I think we should dive into a real life example that, Dan, you're doing actively right now. I've got a few in my office I can show if we need, but you're in the process of having the plat map done, right?
Yep. So just got this preliminary map yesterday. They're doing the legals now this week. So this is a weird parcel. As you can see, a quarter of it was across this street on the west side, and then 3/4 of it was on the east side. 640 acres. So collectively, it's one section or 1 square mile if you were to put it in a square. And really simple. We're just dividing it into 40-acre pieces. It's in Colorado, so I can do that by right. My surveyor is going to record this once it's all done. And yeah, we tried to use the road frontage best we could. Square parcels are more ideal than rectangular. So these, especially these corner ones that have road frontage and power on 2 sides, will probably sell the fastest and the highest. These ones still quite desirable. And then these ones in the back just have easement access, which frankly, if we sold everything except these ones, we'd already be in the black. So I'm not that worried about it. We'll figure it out, and someone will likely buy it, just go park their RV on the weekends. But really simple. And one thing I think you want to look at, it's just so simple, but a lot of people don't think to do this, is when you're looking at a piece to potentially be split, what's around it? And if we were on the GIS and we zoomed out, you'd see this huge parcel that hadn't been divided until now. And then around it, there are some other big parcels, but there are quite a few that have all been cut into these rectangular strips, and they have homes on them. So someone else has done this. People bought them and built their houses. So you've seen the model proven all around. So if you have the huge piece amongst much smaller pieces, it really gives you a lot of confidence that, hey, there's demand for these smaller lots.
So I know one thing that was appealing is almost all of your lots have direct road frontage, which is awesome. But what are some other considerations? Obviously, these are all well and septic. These are large 35, 40-acre lots. Or almost all of them look like they're about 40-acre lots.
Yep.
What other utility considerations did you have? Were you
So
concerned
electric.
about electric? Okay.
Yeah. So electric's a big deal. And I remember looking on Google Earth thinking that there was not electric. And what do you know? I drove out here. There's buried electric, which is rare out here. Usually it's all overhead. There's buried electric all along. I think it's Mountain View Electric down all these roads and then over here. So that made it really easy. We're buying this at 410, which is 600 and something an acre. A 40 goes for closer to 13 to 1600 an acre out there, depending on all the factors. and selling them on terms, we're definitely going to be able to push price more. So it's going to be hard to lose on this one. The upside, we'll see how quickly we can sell them, but should be a really solid project.
Absolutely. Well, and the thing is, not everyone is going to sell on owner financing. Some will be cash
Mhm.
deals, and it really becomes attractive where it's, I mean, if you can sell a quarter of them or 10% of them for cash and then the rest on owner financing, it your payback period, because I've run the analysis on similar ones like this. Payback period usually is going to be in about 4 years or less if you sold all of them on owner financing.
Mhm.
And that's with 10% down, 10, 12% interest, 30 years fixed. So depending on the way you create your numbers and everything like that and the terms that you're offering, you're really able to be in the infinite return period for decades after getting the land paid off. And an additional nice thing about this is just the multiple exit strategies with one single property. Because if you sold all of them on terms, you could potentially sell off a few of those notes and get a decent amount of cash back to where you're almost paid off right away. And then, you're just cruising for years.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So there's a lot you can do with this. I know people think of land as being kind of very singular as far as what you can do, but no, between selling notes and heck, even potentially building on some of these, there's a lot of options here. So I think this will be a good project. And I tested the waters with a few other properties right by this one, actually further south on the same road. And there's a lot of demand. It's just most people need owner financing.
Yeah, 100%. So we hope this provided a really great overview for you guys. If you have deals that are like this, especially in Colorado, multiple hundred acres for less than 1,000 an acre, reach out to myself and Dan. We would love to potentially work with you on something like this. We're really focused on this in Colorado and different markets throughout the Southeast. Feel free to take a look at some of our other videos and other podcasts that we have that have people that are doing this at a much larger scale than we are. But the opportunity is there, and we'd love to work with any of you guys. But Dan, anything you want to leave the people with?
No, Mason, I think that was a good summary. So look in your backyard, what exempt or minor subdivision process is available, and go find parcels that let you do it.